So these are the chestnut trees that I've been attempting to grow over the winter. Out of 8 that I had, all of them died but 2 indoors, and the 2 that did survive got burnt. My grow lights have a temperature sensor, so it didn't get burnt because of the temperature. I think they got burnt because of sugarcane. I remember when I was doing research for the growing marijuana online, there was one point where somebody mentioned about not molasses, but the brown sugar cane, and I got some that was on the bottle, said specifically for plants. That's without sulfur, I think it was, but it was no good. It just, as soon as it got that stuff, the top half instantly died, and then these side branches came out and those died, and the bottom branches came out and those are dying off. So I'm pretty sure that the sugar cane is not meant for plants. It's like a troll or something, like the biochar. The biochar, I think, is meant for soil that is lacking in alkalinity, like in the plains where there's clay soil. And then the sugarcane is probably meant for also like a very specific use, where maybe there's like some brewing tea where you gotta ferment it with bacteria or something. But I did not have bacteria fermenting it, although I did use the unchlorinated water on them that I let sit for 2 days. I'm not really happy with this. It's $300. We'll see if they'll survive. I still have the salsuds, the natural, the salsuds soap, natural soap with the other natural bug repellent that I'm going to put on this. Put them outside. I did end up mowing in my yard because the city said that was not an excuse. They're probably referring to only accepting government excuses, not personal excuses. So if I give an excuse from a philosophical role, they're not interested in that. They're only interested in excuses from a law role. Basically disregarded my argument, so I had to mow it. But for this weekend, I am thinking about putting in a door right there to get some air circulation, more air circulation inside. And if that isn't enough, then I'm also considering cutting out holes in this garage door and putting in mesh nets. I also got a second cat to replace Troy. I traveled 100 miles to get it yesterday, but his girlfriend Chestnut, first thing she did was just attack him. And I think it's that's how they communicate. They communicate in metaphors. I think just their communication. They're trying to say like, oh, we traveled a very far distance, so now he ran away. So that's like saying, oh, he was trafficked from a long distance, and they're like bearing witness to each other what happened to them. I'm pretty sure that's how they communicate. So it's similar to schizophrenic language, but I wouldn't call that schizophrenia because they can't speak. That's their natural language. using metaphors. But I left a couple plants around. As you saw, I left those really tall ones over there. It's because they protect the embankment, and maybe I'll even buy some of those artichokes from Colin later on in the year, so that it'll be a backup food source even. But I was originally thinking of planting the chestnut trees back here. Like half of this back here is my property according to the internet maps. But I don't think it'll happen because those chestnut trees are practically dead. I don't know if they'll even survive the year. We'll see. But this is what I got left over. I also had another one over here. There's the purple plants that I left. One of my tires was flat earlier this week and it rained. I wonder if maybe that was natural or somebody's messing with me. I didn't have to replace it, but I did have to pump it back up. This tree over here is also dead. At least you can see these other ones are alive. That's alive. That's alive. It keeps shade. That's nice. And that gives shade over there. But this one is like about to fall over and it's dead. And if I cut it down at the base, it's just gonna fall down all over the yard and it's very likely gonna hit that. Let's see if I can get some better perspective. So this is the street. It's leaning on the street just a little bit, and I would say that's 5 stories tall and 5 stories horizontally. Will definitely hit the electricity pole. Might even hit their roof. So I'd have to climb that, or somebody'd have to climb that and cut at least halfway. And the reason it's dead I gotta be careful here. I saw a snake over here. There was a red one, and it was right inside of there too, with the bricks. It's like symbolic. There's a bunch of bricks inside, and I think that's the reason why it's dead. And there's a snake inside there too. But for this, I think I'm gonna get a Alaskan chainsaw mill for like $400. That's like next year, because I still have to save up for my washing machine and spare tire, and also wanted to buy a gun. Oh, a second gun, a real one. The other one I showed you was it shoots blanks, but it sounds real and it looks real. Anyways, I'm gonna also my weight loss. I lost 3 pounds this week, and it was an interesting scale. It was 2, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. Sometimes I wonder if the weight scales are bugged, just like this camera is. Alright, I'll give you an update after. Let's see if I can get this done today. It got dark faster than I expected before I could make this outline to cut it out. and remove the 2x4s on the inside. It's just like past 10 o'clock already. I'm gonna save it till next weekend. I'll just use the fan for now. That's the 2x4s I took out. And this is the door I'm going to be putting in. It was already in this place when I bought it a year or two ago. This glass panel, I could take it out and replace it with a mesh. I already bought the mesh. It's indoors. I also wanted to mention this week about my back and the new cards I got. I got these new contact cards I give out people. Let me show you. This has got this aluminum holder, and then I got this contact information saying I'm active on BitChute and YouTube, and these are some interesting videos I made, and then here's some video footage of a cool game I like in the back of it. I plan on giving that out whenever I talk to somebody in depth, like an acquaintance or a friend. And as far as my back, oh look, I got myself a new yoga mat. The other one is really small. I think the Mason twist during Ab Ripper X, that's one of the really bad moves. Especially with such a little amount on the left and right, and my stomach was in the way. I was twisting my back way too much. So now I got myself a bigger mat. Plus I have more room near my head and on the side so I don't get dirty. That's really nice. And my back feels much better. I found a new position at work. Not a position, a new ergonomics movement that totally gets rid of any sort of pain. And then plus I stopped the Mason twist, and anything that's really high impact with a lot of spinal twists, I'm stopping for a couple months and let it heal. I've had that problem in the past when I used to play a lot of video games, and I went to the doctor. We took a CT scan, and they basically recommended stretches and good posture, and it took about 3 months to heal. So that's the plan. Again, 3 months to heal, and then I'll continue with the high impact spinal movements as well. But as far as working out, I've been only doing about 2 or 3 days a week on average. I'm thinking about going into testosterone replacement, hormone replacement therapy, even to get the performance enhancement aspect of it. It's like steroids. I hear steroids is just another term for testosterone, and testosterone replacement therapy is legal. So I don't know, maybe I'll do that. Sometimes I wonder if the people on Peanut DX also were taking testosterone, because they were buff as heck. I heard, what's his name? Freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger, the one who said "screw your freedoms," finally revealed his steroid stack he used to take. You know, maybe he was being hyperbolic when he said "screw your freedoms" the other day, or like a few weeks ago, in retaliation, saying, "Well, you made me worried and taking steroids, so I'm going to make you worried about taking the COVID vaccine. The COVID vaccine is a clot shot. It's from what I hear. It's not worth the risk. It's much better to risk having the COVID-19 flu versus the myocarditis and increased cancer risk from the vaccine and blood clots. So, what else did I want to say? Oh, the shirt design. I wore that to school. To work. I say school because that's the policy in the handbook described what we could wear in one word. Anything that's not explicit. And they define not explicit as anything the government would allow in a high school. So no slander, no calls to violence, and no nudity. No, but then another HR person said, we're no longer in high school. And then I'm like, well, that's in general. I was trying to explain what I heard in the new orientation. So I got mixed answers from different people. Sounds like they all have their own opinion, and they think it's either going to change or it's up to them instead of the owners or the union. They have a union there. Well, anyway, I wore it to work, and it was a surprise reaction. All the green hats, that's the main managers, they were all huddled up in the middle of the hallway, like, what the heck? Just looking. Some people were like acting all gangster and throwing like yo with the hand motions and finger gestures. And then one person said, hey, that's cool shirt. And I didn't really get much negative response. The weirdest part was when the lunchroom, they had a song blasting much louder than normal. It's like, I could love you better, I can love you better. Saying that it's not necessarily we support it, it's just that we support the competition. Who can vote for what they want the most. That's what I got from it. That they understand the idea of multiple cultures coexisting and one beating the other with law, but the other one still being visible in culture, because that's what's the situation right now. The hentai is banned, depicting children and sexual activities, and the age of consent is 18 unless there's a judge's marriage agreement with a judge involved, which is so awkward, and basically nobody's going to do it. So the more prudent version won for now, but I'm hoping to change that. I plan on wearing it, the shirt design, when I do my laundry, when I do my shopping, but I want to first get my real gun, not my fake gun. And that's going to take at least 2 more weeks. So maybe I'll do it once right at the end of the month. Or I don't know. I don't know how long it'll take me to get my hands on the real one if I have to get a long waiting period or something. Maybe I'll have to wait till next year. Or just risk it with my fake one. I don't know. Missouri, on the west side of Missouri, there's not much problems except in Kansas City from what I've heard. And then on the east side of Missouri, I've heard there's a lot of random shootings. But I don't know how true those things are, because the death counts, I suspect, are faked a lot. Like, for example, when they say the military veteran suicide rate is like 30 a week or something. There's no way it's that high when you really think about it. Or the Ukraine and Russia war, I've heard so many different numbers that are drastically different. So I question the severity of the numbers, and sometimes even the the Holocaust numbers. I think the Holocaust happened and there was a lot of people who died, but the 6 million number, I suspect, might be exaggerated. Just like the number of casualties in America versus Russia in World War II. I've heard different stories. I've heard there's barely any American casualties, and then I've heard there was 100,000 American casualties. Or I've heard Russia had the most casualties. Basically, the numbers are suspect, I would say, without clear evidence, especially in situations where they say, "Oh, just take our word for it," with no actual evidence for it. So yeah, I do think it's worth having self-defense with you if you're going to wear that shirt design, because of the chance that there's some unhinged person who wants to kill what they call pedophiles. Like in my comment section right now, I got this person giving me death threats. I think he's a troll, but you never know. He might not be. There's a lot of craziness going on, especially with the schizophrenic language. As far as my workouts, I've definitely been doing more than 10% of the workouts now. I'm doing closer to 40%. But once again, when I go to the 40% or almost half of it, then I get so tired that I don't even want to work out the next day. But if I went on hormone testosterone replacement therapy, I hear it helps heal like twice as fast. So while I weigh so much, that would be probably the most beneficial, versus when if I was skinny, it probably wouldn't matter, because I wouldn't even, the same workout wouldn't be as intense. Like, for example, my push-ups with 270 pounds versus push-ups at 200 pounds is like half the effort. It would be half the effort if I'm skinnier. But that's for later. For now, I'm focusing on this door, focusing on saving up for new things to buy, my shirt design. On the internet, I heard on the internet, Highimpactflix said something about speeding in a city zone and how that's a bad thing. My view on that is that if there's no victims, there's no crime. So if the streets are wide and nobody had to flinch and swerve out the way to get rid of the crash, then that's fine. And I spent 10 years on my bicycle. I could prove that with my behavior. I've spent 10 years on my bicycle. Those are the rims. They got stolen though, the frame. I spent 10 years on my bicycle, riding around even on highways with the 55 mile per hour highways. So I was going, like 5 miles an hour, and they were going 50 miles an hour faster than me, just zooming, boom, boom. And I was right on the shoulder of the road, and there's barely any room there. And I think that's fine. And I wasn't even in a car. I was on my bicycle. So in the same way, I think it's appropriate to go fast on the road next to somebody who's going slow, unless it's like a really crowded area. So like, for example, if it was like a bike race, or there was like a whole bunch of people on the streets doing some sort of parade, or there was like a whole bunch of traffic on a standstill, then obviously you can't pass the traffic, so you got to slow down. But with the cop situation, he had sirens on, he had lights on, he gave plenty of warning that he's coming by fast. So even then, I don't see why he's complaining there. There was nobody who got hurt. So I think speeding should be allowed. And of course, it's relative. And my position, again, on the road signs being recommendations is still that they're recommendations unless determining guilt in an accident. If there's an accident, then the person who followed the recommendations is the one who's the innocent one, versus because he didn't take any risks. Not following the recommendation is taking a risk. For example, going too slow like the Amish people do with their buggies, they're taking a risk by going too slow. They might get hit. I think it should be legal to go slow, and it should be legal to go around them. But in an accident, the one who's not following the recommendation is the one who's the cause. And I also think about the same thing about, like, for example, tolls on the highway. If there's tolls on the highway, I don't think you should have to pay tolls on the highway. Those tolls on the highway should be converted to public roads. Oh, I'm running out of time here. Let me see. Well, okay, so maybe I'll mention that later. It's a long conversation. Alright, that's it then. I'll see you in 2 more weeks. I also wanted to show you some of the propaganda or news I would get from the war in Ukraine that could be misconstrued. As an example of the death cases I was talking about earlier, how they might be exaggerated on purpose or by accident. Or, for example, here is a dramatic footage shows massive explosion at Ukrainian arms depot. And here's a video of it. The beginning does not look like a nuke, but later on it seems like a nuke. So that could either be edited footage or it could be normal footage. Could be a nuke, could be not a nuke. I don't know. Well, they say it's a arms depot, so maybe it's that's the reason why. But later on, this was last month, but a few days ago, I was watching on 4chan. Some people were claiming that the seismographs from earthquake machines were detecting nuclear blasts in different countries, and they were claiming that there's evidence of nuclear explosions. So that's another more evidence I can show you of why I question some of the news information. Well, plus of course the COVID-19 thing, that was insane. And then also 9/11, I think that was an inside job. But I'm just trying to say I'm not trolling like the schizophrenics, what I call schizophrenics, do. Like I said, I think it's dishonorable to use that language in a country with free speech like America, because it hints at the idea that you don't have free speech. As a normophile, I think that lying, like Arnold Schwarzenegger basically did, there's some leniency in that because he was being persecuted by the government, and he hinted pretty obviously that why he was persecuted. So you could tell he's in distress, and therefore he has some leniency in quote-unquote lying, in my view, because he's trying to avoid jail, persecution for his beliefs. In that situation, I think formally my vocabulary for explaining this is not good, but his distress in the context of his location is formal evidence, announcement enough. Whereas the schizophrenics, they have no formal announcement at all, I would say, unless you say, well, you're supposed to think of them as relatable, because you're supposed to think everybody's relatable, and if you think everybody's relatable, then you can accept more metaphors without warning, because you feel very, very close to them. But I think that's only for really close friends. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about this. I don't really want to go into detail about it by myself, because that shows a lack of humanity. I'd rather have it with somebody, like Keith Knight, don't tread on anyone. But he, all of his interviews, he ignores people. Basically, he just asks one question and then asks another question. There's no back and forth, like a friendly back and forth. I don't like that. But maybe that's a survival strategy of his, to have a mental capacity to keep going, maybe. I don't know, because it's not easy to constantly talk with people with different opinions as if it's nothing. Anyway, I also want to show you my dinner for tonight. This is the beef with a bunch of beans. I also added a little bit of rice instead of mashed potatoes now, and I've noticed my armpits don't smell anymore. after I switched it to rice instead of mashed potatoes. The beans need to be alongside with the rice for a complete protein. If it's just beans, you're going to get smelly armpits and it's an incomplete protein. If it's beans and mashed potatoes, that's better, but it still gets sweaty armpits, smelly armpits. But if it's beans and rice, there's no sweaty armpits. And these chunks are little chunks of cheese with a very low fat content, so it's like a protein bar. For other protein bars with tea, I've been having this nocow stuff with the no dairy because I'm lactose intolerant. It's pretty good with tea and milk. And then instead of pizza, when I have a craving for pizza, I would take like 8 sticks of those cheese sticks. I'd fry them up and put them on some saltine crackers with like maybe 700 calories worth altogether. We'll compare that with 1300 for a super thin slice of pizza with the cheese with the bad kind of cheese that gives me upset stomach. This cheese doesn't give me an upset stomach at all. The string cheese. I recommend it even if you're lactose intolerant to try it out. And plus compare that with the really thick rising crust pizza, which is like 2,500 to 3,000 calories. So this is much better. I've also been eating cantaloupe, melons, peaches, about 500 calories of that stuff every day, and then 1,000 calories if I'm stressed out, like I was really stressed out after hearing about that, and I didn't even work out that day, and I just ate half a pizza. Oh, I also got what's it called? Some poison ivy all over me when doing the lawn outside. One of the things I've learned with poison ivy is that it's important to wash it with soap, not with like a bar of soap, but with dishwashing soap, because it's an oil. And then you use paper napkin paper towels to help get it off. Just imagine you got diesel all over your hands, basically. In the past, I would think that touching it at all was bad, because I thought if you touch it, then it will just keep spreading. But no, you gotta get rid of the oil. That's my mouse. Oh no, that's the cat. That's the kitties. Both two of them, and it was next to the hole. That's the mice. One of them was thinking about hunting them. He's taking on the traits from the mother. The other ones are just chilling. I'm thinking also about putting like a 45-degree slant to help them get up and down when they grew up. Okay, I'm gonna let you go for now.